Welcome to the January 22nd, 2020 Conservation Commission meeting. You all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up is going to be Linda Carlson, 22 Mallard Way. The Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, January 22nd, 2020 at 6:30 p.m., Sutton Town Hall, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Mass. The purpose of this hearing is to review a request for determination of applicability submitted to the Conservation Commission by Linda Carlson, Worcester, Mass. The project consists of removal of 2 dangerous white pine trees on map 16, parcel 64, 22 Mallard Way, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Welcome.
Hi.
What's your name and address?
Linda Carlson, mailing address 14 Paul Street, Worcester, property address 22 Mallard Way.
Perfect. Can you describe to us your project?
2 dangerous white pine trees. They're leaning towards both neighbors and very tall and very hazardous in the windy conditions, and would like them down.
Okay. And we have a letter from an arborist, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that should be there in the
Ronald Dupre.
Yep, I'll read that in. This is from Ronald Dupre, certified Massachusetts arborist. RE property at 22 Mallard Way, Sutton, Mass. I have inspected the 2 trees of which you are concerned regarding their safety and stability. They are 2 white pines, Pinus strobus. The first is 27 inches DBH, diameter at breast height, or 4.5 feet above the grade, and the second is 37 inches DBH. The first tree has a heavy lean over a small shed, and more importantly, it looms over the neighbor's garage as well as power and communications lines. Should it fail, it would result in property damage costing thousands of dollars. The second tree has twin leaders starting at about the 60-foot level at approximately halfway up. Normally, white pine will have a single leader. This is an indication of a weak area in the tree. Again, should this fail, the home at 22 Mallard Way may suffer severe damage. It is my recommendation that both of these trees be removed. Should you have any questions regarding this matter, please contact me. Respectfully submitted, Ronald Dupre. So, pics from the arborist, pics from the owner. What are you planning on replacing your trees with?
Maybe a bush or something, mountain laurel or something like that.
It's got to be something on our native species list, and we'd prefer if it was a tree to be another tree.
2.5-inch caliper.
What's another type of tree?
What's a good replacement by the water, Brandon?
Red maple, sugar maple, birches, oak tree, holly tree, something in that native range. What kind, you looking for a tall tree, a shorter tree, medium-sized tree?
Probably shorter, because these are already wide.
Yeah. Holly trees are very nice. They only grow about 60 feet tall when they're really, really big. I mean, it'll take 50 years to get that high. There's also different kinds of birch trees, gray birch or paper birch. They don't get enormous like a pine tree. You can talk with the folks who are. You can talk to your arborist or even the place at the nursery about a proper tree that just has to be native.
So you have to replace 2 with what is removed.
That's what the commission likes to see.
And they have to be 2.5-inch caliper, so a substantial size.
They definitely won't be as big as what we're seeing, though.
Yeah, white pines are a very dangerous tree to have. Even the branches that break off those trees are very dangerous. So, it's definitely in your best interest to get rid of them. But they will have to be replaced with something.
So they have to go right in the actual place, so that means
No, either in line with them or closer to the lake. So you could put them next. Yeah, you could put them next to those trees, or you could put them closer. Okay.
All right.
Anybody else in this? Anybody from the
Some
audience?
butters.
Oh, your name and address?
If either one of them fall, they're
Name and
growing out of
address?
the hill-
What's-
of the hillside.
Name and
What's your
address?
name and address, ma'am?
Karen Melia, I live right next door.
Okay.
And if they're growing out of a sloped area,
Mhm.
and either one of those comes down, they're coming on our house, which we just had totally renovated.
We don't want that.
And no, and if it came down like during a storm at night, we're both dead.
Yeah, we don't want that either.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
We don't want anything broken and we don't want anybody dead. So, we want you to take your trees down. We just wanna know what you're gonna replace them with, that's all.
How long do you have to replace them?
This summer.
Yeah, this
Spring.
springtime, summer,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't hear that, what?
At least before the summer. Springtime is a good time to plant the tree.
You can take them down now, though.
Yeah, you can have,
hope so.
you can have
Yeah.
those taken down immediately.
Yeah,
Anybody else from the audience?
Rosemary Salem at 24 Mallard Way.
Yes.
If it doesn't go their way, it's coming my way.
Yep.
So-
It's good outdoor firewood, though.
Yeah.
Anybody from the board? Brandon?
Something I've been thinking about lately is, as a way to keep everybody honest, just have the applicant, as a special condition, have the applicant contact the commission for an inspection of the new tree once it's planted.
Can they just send a picture?
Yeah, why not? But just some kind of proof.
Okay, that's fine.
I haven't been charging for these anyway, so it's not like I'm making more money on it.
Yeah, I get you.
Make a motion to issue a negative determination for 22 Mallard Way
I'll second it.
Condition?
with the condition that the 2 trees be removed and replaced with 2 trees of native species some point before the summer, but you could cut the trees down right away.
Could you re-second that?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Off tonight.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So you're all set.
thank you.
You're very welcome.
Have a great night.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
And everyone's leaving.
At least nobody's watching us on TV tonight.
You do it as reruns.
Yeah,
I did.
I know, because I saw them.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.
Both continued?
Just through the chair, while we're waiting here.
Yes, sir.
I see Miss Phyllis Charpentier sitting in the back. And, I'm assuming you're here for the general bylaw review. I might be wrong, but I think all we're discussing tonight is a time and date we're picking for this.
Yeah, that's
Just
all.
so you're not sitting here all night. We're not gonna, I don't believe we're
We're
discussing
not, we
anything
can't,
tonight, right?
no. Yeah.
So I can just watch it on.
Oh,
Well, you're welcome to come back, but I don't want you to sit here all night. All we're gonna do is discuss a date.
yeah,
I
we're just
believe.
gonna pick a day where all the board members are available.
Okay, very good.
All right?
You're welcome to stay.
Yeah, you
but-
can stay as long as you want.
Okay, so the next one, 26 Mallard is continued to February 19th, which is a continuation, so you can,
Make a motion to continue 26 Mallard Way to February 19th at 6:40 p.m.
Am I supposed to sign it?
No.
And I believe the reason is because they're still waiting to hear about from other boards.
Okay.
need a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So,
Maybe we can move
A motion?
picking the date up. Do we need to pick a date?
yeah, I need a motion also.
They made a motion on it. I have a motion on 26 Mallard Way
Oh.
to continue to February 19th at
okay,
6:40.
I was writing it on the,
Zach continued it. Zach
to
seconded
waive
it.
the, waive the.
Sorry, we haven't voted.
Yeah, this doesn't have a time on it, so we could pick a date. What, let's pull up the calendar here. Oops, wrong button.
Is it necessary to pick a date? There doesn't seem to be much interest.
Well, we got a lot, we wanna straighten out and make an ANRAD policy for, lot subdivision. I mean, there's some issues. What are you not seeing interest in?
Somebody need to
The
write that down.
200 foot. So this is.
Wait a minute,
So-
what do you mean there's no interest?
Didn't seem to be many people at the other meeting interested in it.
So you just wanna make a motion and
Well, I think so, that's
put it at
because
the town meeting, or?
they didn't have adequate.
Well, they wanted to send out how many letters to the people on Stevens Pond?
He sent out 6:30, I think it was.
But I think we also said that we would make time to at least have
Right,
some sort of
I
discussion.
told the people that were there, we'd talk about it one more hearing.
Yeah.
But that can also be put on every agenda.
Oh, I'm not going there after the
No, no, no,
malarkey went
as a
through it last
note.
time, it's not, no.
No, as a note that the next date will be, and we can put it at the bottom of each agenda when it gets posted, we'll see
I
that.
think you're better off with a date, so it's
Yeah.
open, because it's not only the aura you wanna discuss, right?
No, I
I think
want
that's why we say general bylaw,
policy and.
200 aura. Doesn't have to be specific 200 aura, it's to discuss the general bylaws, period.
I've been
So
asked
that we can
because
discuss the whole thing
some
as a
stuff
whole.
went down that we put that exact wording, 200-foot aura discussion, so. I'm just doing what I'm told from.
Okay, I thought that was the only thing, okay.
The powers to be.
Well, I think from our last meeting that we decided that we were gonna further discuss, I think it's definitions.
Right,
Because we started talking about, different ways to control the 200 feet. That's the
Right.
way the meeting ended off.
right. So like I said, we just gotta pick a date, do you,
So I think to
I s-
truly have a discussion of the 200 feet,
Is
it
this
has
going
to
to be-
specifically say the bylaw
A totally
itself.
different date from a meeting date.
Yeah, it has
So-
to be, because you can't do it on a meeting night.
you can't do it on a meeting night?
You get too much coming in.
You think there's too much?
Better
Okay.
off a separate night.
That's fine,
for
we
it.
can do a separate night, I have no problem, so,
Well, what is too much coming in? Like, what is, how long do we have to,
Right
is it,
now
would it
we
be the
have
next?
are you talking about the applications coming in?
Next
Yeah, so
meeting-
4.
Yeah, so.
I mean, I don't mind staying a little late. I don't think it has to be, if we put
It's up to you.
half an hour, 15 to a half an hour aside, we're pretty
Your
good about
next
sticking to an
meeting-
agenda.
I've got 3 already on the next meeting. I don't know if anything's coming in tomorrow.
Right, what's the meeting date after that? It's not fit.
February 19th.
Yeah, I'm not here.
You've got 2 on there so far, depending on what happens the meeting before. Cause like, on February 5th, you've got 2, you got an ANRAD and a new NOI from
It's continued.
National Grid.
Lincoln, for Lincoln Road?
Yeah.
It's continued to
February 5th.
February 5th.
At 6:40.
They continued, yes. If that's what you're here for. Have a good
Um,
night.
Alright, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so on February 5th, if those 2, not the first one, if the 2 continue, that'll go to February 19th. That gives you 4. So, I mean, you can do it on February 5th if you want. Or you can wait and do it March, I don't know, whatever you decide.
Can you schedule it for February 5th and then continue it if the discussion seems
yeah,
to
you
run
can do
longer? I
that.
mean,
I think you should definitely open it if people show up.
Okay.
see if people
When-
show up. and
Yeah,
then-
I mean, and then if you need to give more time, then that means
Well,
there's a lot of
30
interest either way.
Right.
That'll go quick,
30 minutes, so what
And
time?
then we'll do it again
What
at
time,
another.
what time do
If
we?
we
Instead
need
of,
to,
yeah.
So everybody
You
will
don't
be
have
here
to
on
contact
February
it.
5th?
Sometimes the more you talk about it and think about it,
Can
the
we do
better
it,
it
can we
is.
start a half hour early? Well,
I don't mind.
I don't know
can
if
do
timing
6.
will work, but could we do it so we,
Do it a half an hour before, start at 6. That's a great, I mean,
What I'm
I think it's a
thinking
good idea.
is, okay, so your next meeting, you've got 6:30, 6:40, and 6:50. If you wanna
Looks
put
like
this
it's at the
one,
end.
Wanda, we're talking about
Wait
doing it
till-
at 6. Do it a half an hour earlier. Do the
I would-
discussion right away.
I
That
would
way,
think the
people
discussion
won't
would be
have to
done at
wait.
the end.
Well, yeah, I
you only
agree
got a
with
half an hour, that's it, 6:30, you gotta
Right.
be on this next one.
Why do it at the end? Then people that wanna,
It's up to
they
you.
end
Well,
up
we,
here late.
we could always table it till the end. If it's gonna go past a half hour, we can shut it off at a half hour and then.
I think you can, you could do that, right?
Yeah, and then we can pick it
Yeah,
back
we
up at
could do that,
8 o'clock
yeah.
if we need to. So why don't we do that, 6 o'clock on February 5th? Is that enough time for you, Phyllis? Is that 2 weeks? Okay.
And earlier must be better.
Now, do we have
Than
to,
sitting here till
do
8:30,
we
9
have to
o'clock.
notify abutters?
No,
It's just a discussion.
didn't have to do that
Oh,
to
I'm
begin
sorry,
with.
actually, and I take that back, cause the bylaw's
That
not
was
just
a
for people on the lake.
courtesy.
No,
So that was a bad,
Okay,
back
so
of the
6 p.m.
Right.
She just
How do
advertises
you
it
want
right, in the
listed,
paper and
just
dumps
like
it.
this general bylaw?
Yeah, does anybody wanna change any wording on that? But I think we could talk about the policy, the general bylaw, and specifically the 200-foot AURA.
Yeah, we don't wanna limit it that we can only talk about the 200.
Because then it doesn't work. You can't have the discussion that you need to have. That's what I was saying. Why are we labeling it 200 foot when it's to discuss the bylaws, all of them, in an entirety? So anything we want to
Discuss all of
discuss
them.
that's inside our bylaw for coming up with town meeting, we can have a conversation about it.
Okay,
It's not
so-
vague, it's the,
Well, Jim had asked me to make sure that that wording was in it so people knew.
Okay, then leave it.
I was,
So leave it as that wording, but
Yeah.
everyone should kind of chime in maybe by email of what they particularly want to discuss so that you're
Mhm.
not spending time on stuff that doesn't need
Yeah, that's a good idea,
to
Nicole.
spend time on.
Yeah.
Policy 200.
So if somebody has something they're really passionate about that they really.
Yeah, can
want
everybody
some time.
email me what they want to talk about regarding the bylaw and policy?
Well, if it's the jurisdiction, then it's the jurisdictions with the the definitions, because those are the only pages, it's not a lot, the rest of it, there's no issues with.
Yeah,
Like, we don't, how many pages, 10 or, most of the pages, there's not any questions, I don't believe.
no, but we had,
like, we wanted to discuss signs, so would that fall in the bylaw, or is that?
that's our
I
bylaw.
think that's gonna be a policy, isn't it? We can't talk about it too much now.
No,
right?
we can't
So,
talk. We
that's
wanna
what,
just-
this is all the more reason we need to have discussion about the entire thing.
Right.
Nobody understands it all.
Right.
And it would
And I
be good
think-
to,
and this
as a
is-
board, have a discussion of.
And I think this is broad enough where we can talk about it all, right? General bylaw?
You just want the words general bylaw?
I
gotta
think
know
you
how
should,
to post
in
it.
my opinion, I would say, I'll make a motion, I'm gonna make a motion that on February 5th at 6 PM, we start a meeting to review the general bylaw and also including the 200-foot aura.
And policies.
I'll second it.
And so it's spelled out, so there's no question, but that is general bylaw and specifically the 200-foot, or including the 200-foot.
I agree with it, but should we put the word policies in there, cause we're gonna put
If
some
you're gonna
policies
talk
in
about
writing?
them, yeah.
I don't know how you can do all that in half an hour.
We can wait till,
So
we can table it till the end.
Or I can hold my motion and we can set a separate day for it, which I'm fine with too. If you think it's gonna.
Start with a half an hour of discussion.
Yeah,
I don't wanna, no one,
I think a half an hour is plenty. And if it runs over, then we'll pick it back up after everybody goes through.
Alright,
I think
so,
also setting the the February 5th will let us gauge like how many people are actually interested in coming by setting it on a.
very
Right.
good point, yeah.
Right.
and 6 o'clock's a good time, most people can
Alright,
make it.
So Wanda, it's general bylaw, policies, and including the 200-foot aura. So we're covering everything, I hope.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright, so it's February 5th at 6 o'clock.
And Wanda, before you post it, if you wanna email it to us so we know how it's specifically,
I've got general bylaw, policies, and including 200-foot aura.
Perfect.
I think that
Upgrade.
covers it, right?
Yeah, I think that
Of
covers.
Great Ponds.
Yeah, we don't want anyone to, any problems and make sure everyone
Right.
knows.
We wanna make sure everybody knows what we're talking
The,
about.
the topic will be discussion.
Should all have a copy, whether we gotta print them on our own, but if we're gonna discuss it, we need
Yeah, I
it in
agree.
front of us.
Copy
Just-
of
Our,
what now?
our bylaw.
I think
You can also pull it up on the screen, right, Brandon?
It's easier if you have it, make notes and make
Yeah.
marks, and
Yeah.
I just think a copy of the.
But then the
Yeah.
public can see it on the screen too.
Agreed, yep.
I'll have to print them out.
Okay.
Time is it?
It's now 6:50.
I'm gonna make a motion to continue 101 Central Turnpike at the applicant's request of February 5th, 2020 at 6:40.
101 needs, yeah, that needs to be read in. That's a continuation from the last one, right?
Oh, yeah, but it's a new
However,
ANRAD,
It's a new ANRAD,
so it doesn't need to be read in, yeah.
I apologize.
I need to. I need to get to the.
So when we close that, are we gonna be closing their original application as well as the ANRAD?
Depends on what they wanna do.
Okay.
They might be reconfiguring lot numbers, a lot locations, who knows?
The Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, January 22nd, 2020, at 6:50 PM at Sutton Town Hall, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Mass. The purpose of this hearing is to review an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation submitted to the Conservation Commission by Marty Green, MMSJ, Northbridge, Mass. The project consists of an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for 101 Central Turnpike, 81014 Lincoln Road, map 19, -4, 142, 143, 144, parcel 1, 2, parcel A and B at 101 Central Turnpike, 81014 Lincoln Road, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act and the Sutton Wetlands and Riverfront District Administration Bylaw.
Make a motion to continue 101 Central Turnpike, 81014 Lincoln Road at the applicant's request to 6:50 6:40, February 5th, 2020.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, under board business,
Board business till
we have the minutes from January 8th, 2020.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of January 8th, 2020.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now, it should be. Yeah, I think you signed the reimbursement for the other one, I gotta look for it. What we have here is Leland Hill Estates. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 6 of them. Those are the certificates of
Wait.
the ending
We,
part of that.
hold on, we haven't done 171 Worcester Providence Turnpike,
I thought you signed that one.
Pleasant Valley Crossing. Oh, is that just the reimbursement?
Hold on, wait a minute. Yeah, that's
Okay,
this one that you
all right.
already signed.
Okay,
I wanted to make sure I didn't lose
Okay.
it.
all right,
You know,
and,
in amongst the others.
yeah, so Leland
that
Hill
one's done.
Estates wants a certificate of compliance for Hunter's
For
Court.
these 6, yeah, these are finished. I know, did you stop by there, Brandon?
Sorry, I was focusing on, what was the question?
Leland Hills, Hunter's Court?
Yes, I stopped by those properties and did an inspection, and I have further questions for the engineer. Let me show you. This is for lots 20 through 25 on Hunter's Court. We have the certificate of compliance request letters. It's Eric Bizet, professional engineer. Used to be done by Gurrier, not Gurrier,
At Allen.
yeah, not Allen, but the company, the Heritage Design Group, which is no more. It was bought up by Allen Engineering. So now Allen Engineering is the company that is handling the certificates of request or anything else associated with the subdivision. But Eric Bizet has been involved with this project the whole time. He submitted some as-built plans, and I have the original plans associated with the order of conditions. And he wrote these letters for these lots, which he writes, "Dear Commission members, on behalf of Blackbrook Realty Trust, applicant of order of conditions 303-0, whatever it is, Allen Engineering and Associates, Inc. respectfully request a certificate of compliance for the work allowed under this order. The work has been completed and areas within the buffer zone are stabilized with vegetation. Please feel free to contact our office if you have any questions."
There's a big issue with that.
Well, it does not.
Does not
It's
say.
what it doesn't say, Mr. Chairman.
Right.
It does not say that the project was completed in substantial compliance with the order of conditions, which I found it looks to be the case. And let me give you an example. I knocked on the door at 3 Hunters Court, which is at the corner of Partridge Hill Road and Hunters Court. It was originally called out to be 75 Partridge Hill Road, but I guess in the end it's now called 3 Hunters Court. And here's the original site plan from 2012. The plan calls for the house to be built, and this is the backyard, so a little bit of grading, and these bullseyes represent the buffer zone signs. And I'll point out that Leland Hill Estates was the very first location that the commission started requiring the buffer zone signs, which is the same buffer zone signs more or less the commission has been requiring ever since. So one of the things that it was the hindsight 2020. At no location and nowhere on the site plan or on the order of conditions did it say that it had to be cemented in. It was only after that the light bulb went on and the commission required that for every time after. So I went there and I kind of tried to pull it out of the ground, and I was able to pull them out of the ground. So they can all be pulled out of the ground right now. But not only that, But the buffer zone sign, let me get a picture to show you a picture too. Here's a picture, and these were installed in 2012. It's on the right pole, it has a cap, it's the right sign, it's in good shape, but I pulled that out and just laid it up against a pine tree. The biggest problem is that it does not look that like the signs were put where they were supposed to be put. The signs, according to this plan, should have been much closer to the house. And these signs are down like on the wetland boundary itself. On the plan, what makes this one easier than the others is that there's a wing wall right here associated with the wetland crossing. So they have two wetland crossings. This is the one on the north side with the big the block retaining wall. At either end there's a wing wall that comes out. So that was a good reference point for me. And what I found was that these 4 signs were actually placed back here behind the wing wall, like along here. So what I'd like to do is go back to Eric Bezet and ask him to do a more thorough investigation, and with the commission's permission, have him do a updated as-built plan that can relate what I'm seeing, what I saw in the field with what was supposed to be built.
Well, maybe they saw the other case we had down there and decided that they were gonna change the location of the signs.
That would be very frustrating.
If, and I'm all for putting them at the edge of the wetlands, but if their plan said they needed to be somewhere,
Right.
they need to be there. So, we gotta notify whoever we have to notify, and we also need a letter of substantial compliance, not a letter that says it's completed.
I will ask Mr. Bezet for that very letter.
And tell them to make sure it's substantially.
Right. Which would mean they'd have to go out and locate where the signs actually are today.
So through the chair.
Yes, sir.
So, I got a chance to spend some time with Brandon out in the field this week. Something similar, not done correct, engineer submits plan. I'm glad to see that Eric, at least the engineer, was pretty straightforward with his letter about, he left it vague enough that we should question it. Good job on the site visit. Like he said, I don't think we can make them cement them, but whatever the plan was. So some of our discussion out in the field was, we've made it easier over the years. You don't have to do the as-built plan. But maybe when, and we had talked specifically about when maybe we need to start asking for something a little bit more. So I think this is a perfect case where they've asked for a certificate of compliance, Brandon's gone out and done a site visit, and there's reasonable doubt that we should ask for a site plan. Because once you have a site plan from the engineer, it leaves for nothing to go wrong, I guess you could say. I guess the engineer could make a mistake, but that's what the site visit's for. But it will hold him more accountable. He has to go and physically say the sign's there, shoot it with the gun, make an as-built plan. There's more accountability with a plan than a letter. Not that we want to lose track of doing it with the letter, and most people, like I've said, I want to believe do the right thing. But if we question something, the next step would be have them do an as-built plan.
When Mike brought this up before about people moving the signs and everything, I made copies of the types of violations from the wetlands book here, and I made a copy for everybody, and it's our job, if people move signs, to enforce it and make them put them back. So, here's one for everybody, and I highlighted some of the things. But it's from the Wetlands Enforcement Manual here, and we have one in the office, and then I bought one the other day too for myself. But you can take these home and look at them, but specifically, the thing that we're having more problems with, I think, is the violation of the orders of conditions here. And one of the things at the end here is also that if people do not request a certificate of compliance, then that is an enforceable action. And so, if we go back 3 years, like we were sending out the letters, but if we can maybe go back to 3 years before now, where people are just coming to that point where they need to, if they haven't filed, let's get them right away and send out a letter.
That's a good idea. Yeah, very good.
Anyway, so I thought maybe that, some of you haven't been to the MACC classes, and, hopefully everybody's going to the, February 29th. But, I just figured everybody might need a hard copy of this, and you can take home and
So
look at it.
through the chair, Joyce, then I have specific questions. So if we're gonna, who's enforcing this? Who's gonna go out and
We
enforce
do.
this?
Well-
So we, meaning,
It-
we're gonna,
If,
so when are we gonna start to enforce it then? When
Well-
does that start?
if we go out, if we get called and we go out there and we find out that it hasn't been followed, then it's our obligation to enforce it. If any order of conditions is violated, then it's our duty to enforce it. It doesn't mean we have to go out and go through everybody's yard every year or anything like that, but it's just if something comes up and it's not right, then it's our duty to enforce it.
I think that's easier said than done, like
Well, I agree, but, you know.
I challenge to say who's gonna enforce it, how is it gonna be enforced, how are we gonna make people do what we want? I
It's-
want that
it's
explained
our-
to me.
It's our duty to enforce the
These are-
Wetlands
But
Protection
this is,
Act.
so you're talking about state regulations, we have a whole bunch of town bylaws.
Yes,
That's what I want, because most of
And-
the violations that I see in this town are not state regulations, they're bylaws.
well, we have.
And this isn't to challenge you personally, but I wanna know,
We have
because I
books.
see a ton of them. So just let me know when we should start
Okay, well,
focusing on all the violations.
if you.
And how we're gonna enforce
If
them.
you see them and you report it.
I brought some
then-
up this week. I've done a
then we
site
have-
visit. I've
we-
made the whole board aware of a whole bunch of them.
What we
As
did-
recent as Monday.
What
So,
we did in the past, I didn't get anything.
well, I
about
don't
them.
know what was done with the information I personally called
Through
and
the chair, can we table this discussion? Cause we got
Yeah.
7.
Why don't we table this?
Agreed.
Until after this.
and I'm all for this. It's just, I wanna know how we're doing
Good
it.
discussion, but.
Yeah, I like it.
One that said this needs to be.
All right. 7 o'clock is gonna be 25 West Sutton Road.
What's
The
this one?
Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, January 22nd, 2020 at 7 PM, Sutton Town Hall, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Mass. The purpose of this hearing is to review a request for determination of applicability submitted to the Conservation Commission by Matthew Connors, Sutton, Mass. The project consists of removal of shrubs surrounding base of trees and 2 rotted trees within the retaining wall of the lake on map 8, parcels 32, 25 West Sutton Road, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Welcome. What's your
Welcome
name? Yeah, just your name and address, sir.
Matt Connors, 25 West Sutton Road.
Excellent, come on up. 25 West Sutton. I'm gonna read in, we have a letter from an arborist here, which is R.W. Emmett. This is just under job description. It says, 1, red maple structural decay in lower section of tree above root flare. More than 50% decay at this time, creating a hazard for people and property at this location. Removal is recommended. Number 2, red maple. Structural decay in a lower section of tree above root flare. More than 50% decay at this time, creating a hazard for people and property at this location. Removal is recommended. And this was dated 1/26 of 19. Let's see what we got here. You might have a chance to do it this week with the ice.
And that's the reason for the delay. The
Yeah,
the
yeah.
letter was last January, but
Gotcha.
we didn't really have any safe conditions, and then
Yep.
I hadn't gone through the proper.
Does anybody want to see these pictures of the rotted tree?
Arborist letter for me, I'm.
Okay. What is your plan for replacement?
Whatever the board suggests.
Don't do that. Don't you wanna pick what you want for a tree?
Well, let's just take 2 seconds and have a creative discussion. I see a red maple tree that's supposed to be a hardy tree, and it's not good. What went wrong? Is there like a beetle or?
No,
So, no, Mr. Chairman, there is a previous filing for this property.
Okay.
2014. They had to do a Title V septic system upgrade between the house and the lake. So, when I went down there today, to get back to a previous discussion, I said to myself, geez, it's all built. I don't remember someone submitting for a certificate of compliance
They didn't.
on it.
Now you're in trouble.
I've lived there for,
I'm just kidding, you're not.
Yeah.
Was it
you're
his?
not.
But you're still responsible.
I mean, she
So
doesn't.
I don't see any certificate of compliance on this, so now I recommend that you get one, cause it's all done, and it visually looked like it was done correctly. And at that time, one of the selling factors by the engineer was, this is great because we don't have to cut down any of the trees that are right along the bank of the lake. And I was looking for some of those pictures from 2000.
What, did they just steal the root ball from under them?
No, so these are the two that are coming down right here. So there's three red maple trees, and it's great because they're both like right on the water, and they hang out over the water. They give a lot of shade to the aquatic life, so they're high value trees. Here's one of them. Let's see here. This is what it used to look like. It used to slope down, and I don't really have a good picture of the two trees that are coming down, but I saw them myself with my own eyes, and they don't look too great. So he's got the arborist letter, so it is what it is, but I want to make the point that you should probably get a certificate of compliance for that septic system.
Why don't we make a motion to, does anybody on the board have any issues with that? Nobody from the public? Why don't we get the motion for the trees, and then we'll talk
Well,
about
a
the
couple, what,
native species.
two native trees? Fine with, or is that one? Those are two different trees, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Alright, so I make a motion to issue a negative determination with, the removal of two trees, that two native trees be replanted in a similar location.
So you need to close the public hearing.
Right,
Make a
those
motion
two
to
trees
close the
are
public
right
hearing
on the
first.
water.
I'm way off.
Can I get a second on that?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
are there any requirements for distance from a neighbor's property or anything like that?
Probably.
Well, those
We're not allowed to
trees
answer
aren't right on the
Yeah.
property line.
Yeah, we don't know anything.
So the idea is to replace the two trees with two other native trees. Red maple is a great one for that spot, because it's gonna get a lot of water. It's right next to the lake. And they can eventually grow up back over the lake and provide the same kind of shade as the ones that are there now.
Sure.
2.5-inch caliper.
Okay.
All right, so did you make the motion?
So
You know what? Oh, we already,
Yeah.
just, this is not easy to get down to, is it?
No.
I would be personally okay with a little bit smaller, 2.5-inch caliber tree, you need a machine to get it down. Well, sometimes it's more disturbance.
Is
I'm
that
not saying not a
written in
good
the pub-
sized tree, but maybe not quite a 2.5-inch caliber.
Is 2.5-inch written into our bylaw?
Yes, I believe it is.
We should be able to make exceptions, so you want them to have to use machines to
I
get
can't
down?
Part of the issue, I talked to the arborist about taking it down as well. Can't get any machinery down there.
Great.
My neighbor has a septic system that he would have to drive over, and they won't grant access, so it has to be climbed and limbed. So please, I ask that you don't require me to have machinery down there to put something else back in its place.
Well, just a tree as big as you can, at least if two guys carry,
Yeah.
you could still get a decent sized tree that two guys could carry down, but 2.5, you can't. You almost need a machine. That's a big root it is. A true 2.5-inch caliber, and I've said it before, I'd rather have things that actually happen the way we say than,
And make a mess.
well, no, people, first of all, 2.5-inch caliber, I'll challenge to say I very rarely see that planted. It's usually smaller. No one says anything. So, on this particular case, and where he has to put them, because in a couple of years they're gonna catch up. Like, it's not like the end result will be the same. It's gonna be a nice big tree that shades the shore, so.
So,
I-
couple
I
trees
am-
that you and a buddy that have to carry down.
I am limited on space down there due to the septic system and the abandoned septic system, and there's a considerable slope. There's only maybe 8 to 10 feet between the base of the slope and the stone and the retaining wall to the lake. It's my assumption that when they take these trees down, that I'm going to be left with the stumps, so
I don't know how you could get them out.
I don't either, they're sort of entwined into the wall
Between
itself.
between the leach field and the wall.
With that being said, with the leach field, is that leach field too close to future roots? Because I know you should.
No, because if they were, the trees would have been required to be taken down.
Is that why the trees died?
That's my only, I just don't,
No, because
No.
it was, it was halfway,
Yeah, I
about,
have a couple copies of this.
I think he's asking
Brandon, this has
where
been
he
my
should place them,
observed
given the
in
fact that
construction,
there's
if
these
we
stumps and
fill
much
beyond
that's what
the
I'm saying.
edge
Are
of
they-
canopy,
They're right on your wall.
depending on the species, some do better than others, but some don't
trees
make
to
it.
come down
The minute
right
you,
where that
wherever the edge of the
Okay.
canopy, cause they
This
say
is
that's
the
the
abandoned
root structure of
septic.
the
I
tree, it's kinda
understand
like a
that,
rule
but
of
you
thumb,
can't
is
get
what
a
I've been
sheet
told.
down there.
So
So when
You
you're
can't
filling
get
and
a
grading,
down there,
right
which
down
means
you
to
he
fill
doesn't have
beyond the
to
canopy of
trees.
the outside
This
edge,
stuff
because there's a
goes
chance
There is a
tree,
vent to daylight.
Okay.
some trees are more
Drainage to
sensitive than
daylight
others.
on
yeah, yeah,
either
yeah.
side.
Yeah.
not
I'd
red
really
maple,
not.
so.
No,
You
they're
don't wanna
pretty
mess
hardy.
with your
I don't wanna
drains.
mess with that.
Right.
But I can get them.
As long as you can get them
If
in
you
the
ever
same
put one
area,
on
we'd
one
be
side,
happy.
one side of the stump and the other side of the stump, 1-inch caliper, that would great.
We'd
The
be
whole
happy.
idea, Matt, is just to keep that shade, because I live on a lake, and everywhere there's
Oh, yeah.
trees and boat docks is where
No, it's
all the fish and
wonderful.
all the wildlife and.
It's wonderful, it overhangs my neighbor's dock.
Oh, no,
and
no, no, we
mooring,
don't
and
not
I-
want you to touch those
Yeah.
trees that are there, it's just the only reason is if there was no trees around the whole lake, and we let everybody cut them down, it wouldn't look so nice
Yep,
anymore.
understand, right.
And it would
So we're just
affect the
looking for
water
something
quality
nice,
and-
we'll let you pick it, you could do birch trees, they're not as big, they don't, but they actually shade over the lake nice. It's all about getting a canopy back over the lake.
We'll just either require a site visit or a picture of that, like we
Okay.
did with the last one, okay?
but you can take the trees down right away.
We never
Yeah, as
voted
soon as
on it,
it's
so.
safe. Yep.
Right, we didn't
We
vote
didn't
on it.
We didn't finish, we kinda,
I don't get sidetracked.
Yeah, we can sidetrack.
I think, we voted to close the public hearing when you were out of the room there.
Okay.
And then there was a motion to allow the
Who did the
removal.
second on the close?
Zach did that.
Zach did.
Alright.
And I made a motion to allow the removal of the 2 dying trees with the replacement of 2 new trees, kind of in the same vicinity as we just discussed, of native species, you know, heavy trees.
And we will need proof that they were installed.
Okay.
All right. Can I get a second on that?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And as you can see, this is the tree that's coming down, comes right over the lake pretty good, so it's a pretty high value tree.
You gonna try to do it this winter, ideally?
Yes, I would like to.
While the water's
yeah.
down, you got
While,
ice, yeah.
while the water's down, and as long as the ice is safe, I'd like to drop it on the ice,
Yeah.
chop it up, and
Be done with it.
be done with it, yeah.
Do we need to sign on this RDA?
We didn't sign anything.
We didn't sign that.
Yeah, you've gotta sign
We're
both
good.
of them.
Can we revisit the
Certificate
other?
of compliance.
Oh, yeah.
Just see Wanda,
CRC.
just see Wanda for the
I'm
paperwork.
gonna have to do the research on the file, cause I couldn't find it.
Well, just while he's here, so it was a septic system that we permitted, or we allowed, or approved back in what,
I don't
14?
know.
Yep,
No idea.
yep, I'm gonna
So-
pull it up right now.
Typically, all it is just a letter from the engineer that did it, saying this was built properly. And so it's pretty simple, it's more just gonna be a,
And there may be an as-built in the
I
Board
was
of Health.
just
And
gonna,
that information is all gonna be on the
Bill,
website.
on this case, Matt,
075.
I
cause
saw that.
he's a guy that bought it, it goes back to 14, and there's a whole as-built plan at the Board of Health, it's probably identical to the as-built that we would need, so. And if Brandon's gonna do a site visit,
Yeah.
I'm
and all
fine
the
with that.
fees are paid, why don't you get a copy from Board of Health of the as-built plan? It'll show everything that's done and how it got done. And if Brandon does, he said he kinda did a site visit and it looked good, but once he has the as-built, and if it all makes sense.
Do we need a
Well, cause then he can, if we wanna get these things off the books,
Right.
that makes it easy.
and it sounds like everything's done correctly, and that's all that really matters. I think there's
Raoul-
some paperwork,
Raoul did
someone,
Yeah.
the only thing is I'm leaving, there is some paperwork to a certificate of
dated,
compliance,
so
like.
This one
That's
has
dated.
receipt.
Raoul can write a, Raoul.
Oh, Raouf was the architect?
Raoul-
Oh, yeah,
so we
yeah.
know
if he
it's
call-
done
Oh,
right.
yeah, he'll do it.
So he does have a plan.
Yeah,
So
just,
it's an engineer from
just
town.
call Raouf, he's a good guy, he'll write
He's
you the
from
letter.
town, he'll get you what you need.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't realize
he
he
could
was the
probably do the
engineer.
whole thing for you, he's probably already been paid for
Have,
it.
have you talked to him? You ever met him?
Nope.
Great guy.
Good
Just
guy.
call him up, tell him you realize it's not a certificate of compliance for your septic, and Concom wants to clean it up, and you need a letter saying it's compliant.
And if he's got any questions, call him, call
Yeah,
us.
fair enough.
He's good.
Okay.
And then send it in, we'll clean it up, and it's off your deed.
Plan was done for Lewis Atherton. Sound familiar?
Yeah, that's who I bought the property from.
Gotcha.
Did anything come up when you bought the property? Anybody mention there was a lien against the, not a lien, but there was something recorded against the title?
Yeah, there
from
is a
lots?
lien,
There's
there is a
on
lien
it.
against it when, till you close out with a certificate of compliance.
Okay.
It would have been on the title report, but the lawyer didn't tell you.
You want it off this,
This
so
is-
if you
this
go to
has been
sell
in
it or
our
refi or
existence.
anything, it's off.
I'm starting to realize that,
It's it's a horrible problem.
I would have never thought, yeah.
Well, it all looks good.
Yeah.
Have a
Okay.
good night.
You're all
Great,
set,
thank you.
thanks.
He shouldn't be in that position.
No?
That would have definitely been.
All right,
the
so
title.
do we wanna get back
If
to
you
our
could, and you're honest, yeah.
discussion that we were having before this meeting?
Well, I mean, the title.
Which is the,
Back to this thing?
yeah, in,
Leland Hill Estates,
this fell under Leland Hill Estates, and this is, a paper that Joyce passed out, it's types of violations. And the question was, this is types of violations for the state law, not our bylaw, correct?
well, it could be for our bylaw too, but, if, it would be just an enforcement order. If you do an enforcement order, you're supposed to put whether it's for the bylaw or for the state.
Okay, so this,
But-
we could do this for our bylaw too?
Yes.
Our bylaw's too complex for this.
That certificate of compliance was already issued in November of 2014.
It
Oh.
was?
Yeah.
I don't have any record of that.
Oh, does somebody wanna call?
I'll get in touch with them tomorrow.
All right.
This is
Okay.
what I found.
The one time we're organized.
And we're not.
I have a suggestion when Wanda does the, agenda here, because it says signed certificate of compliance, and that might be misleading to people. So instead of sign, just say consider or applied for.
Application,
Review of-
COC application,
Yeah.
something like that.
CFC review or something.
Yeah, review application for certificate of compliance instead of sign, because unless we vote on it, we can't sign them.
What about review request for application?
Yeah, that's fine.
Brandon, do you have the bylaw book right there?
Right here.
There's two up there.
Thank you.
Wonder, while Andy's looking that up, do you have a way to reach out to Matt Connors, who was just here, so he doesn't spend money on a
Yeah.
letter?
Okay,
Well,
Wanda's gonna call him.
Raoul will tell him anyways if he calls him, cause
So I'm gonna
Raoul's
read
the
this.
one that requested it.
and I don't really wanna get into it too much because it wasn't an agenda item, but this is what our bylaw says. Activity means any form of draining, dumping, dredging, damming, excavating, filling or grading, the erection, reconstruction, expansion of any building structures, the driving of pilings, the construction or improvement of roads, other ways, the changing of runoff characteristics, the intercepting or diverging of ground to surface water, the installation of drainage, sewage and water systems, the discharging of pollutants, including sediment, the destruction of plant life, and any other physical, biological, or chemical characteristics of the land or water. You can't do this with that. Cause
Yes, you can.
if you read into this pretty much says, and we've talked about it before, if you cut a stick off a tree in your yard, we have to write them an enforcement order.
Not unless it's,
This is why it's gonna be a good meeting to talk about this on the 5th at 6 o'clock.
And I'd like to point out, Mr. Chairman, that definition was copied word for word from the Wetlands Protection Act.
yes. That is the Wetlands Protection Act.
Then
Right,
it's
but
already been
as the-
covered once, we don't have to double it up.
Wasn't that
good
written as the
question.
jurisdiction of a resource area, not a buffer zone? And we're enforcing that in the buffer zone in this town, right? So under the state regulations, under definitions, that's under a resource area, not
No,
a buffer zone.
no, that includes buffer zone as well.
That's the state regulation.
I suggest that we
Yeah.
save this conversation for the fifth.
I know,
As hard as it
I don't
is.
wanna,
A little background, Mr. Chairman. You're right. In the bylaw, there was a big effort to not duplicate what the state law already said. However, we had been told by town council that if you're going to copy anything from the Wetlands Protection Act, you should copy and include in the bylaw the definition of alter and alteration. So that's what we did. So
Okay.
there's absolutely no confusion.
I'll remember that for the 5th.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Time is it? Oh,
So how are we leaving Hunter's Court? We're saying it's not in compliance, or we need a letter from,
There were issues, there were issues.
There's issues,
Signs
I'm
and-
gonna contact Eric Bizette to tell him that I think that, based on my inspection, that the buffer zone signs are not in the place that they're supposed to be. And that, they should go out and do some new survey and update their as-built plan to show the current locations of the buffer zone signs in relationship to where they were originally proposed. And that he should be writing a letter specifically stating whether the project is in substantial compliance with the original order conditions. We need to see those words, not just, it's finished, here you go.
I agree.
Okay, so those will be on hold, I'll put them on the next meeting also.
Okay. Next up is gonna be, the annual report due February 5th.
Actually, it's not, it's due the,
19th.
19th.
And
I
I was
don't
gonna
know
work
when
on
they-
it this afternoon, but I think my horse is coliking, so I didn't have time, but it's a little confusing on those because it'll be from July of 18 to
June of
July of 18 to June 30th on 19. So I will
It's a
write the
year
report
before.
and I'll talk about Zach coming on as an alternate and Nicole coming on as an alternate and so forth. And I intended to get it done for tonight, but I had other issues.
We'll deal with that. We'll
Yeah,
deal
well,
with
we can,
that.
so
Yeah.
keep that
So
on the
I-
agenda, we'll talk about it on the 5th.
I will do, when I do that part of it, I will send it out to everybody prior to the next meeting.
Yeah, 'cause I already did the numbers.
Yeah.
All the numbers have been done, but just, it's the word.
Next up
I can't-
is permit primer update.
Oh, I think Mike's issue was, about the permit primer, which all ties into this kind of stuff, so
Hold off.
I think we can hold off on that too.
We're gonna hold off on that.
Okay, so that was the,
Next up is the MACC conference on February 29th. Joyce and Zach are going.
okay, is anybody else gonna go?
I can't make it that,
Okay.
February's
Cause I
tough.
know you said something about looking online.
Well, that was a question Joyce might know. Do you know if any of those classes are online? Cause I have taken
They
4 of
might
the
be.
6 in that one.
I don't know which ones are online, you'd have to look
Alright, I'll
at their website. It
Yes,
is,
I'm not-
it is an extra day in the year, I figured everybody could go, it's an extra day.
It is an extra day.
I'll be there. My company's sponsoring the president's reception.
Is it like a turkey dinner or something?
No, it's
Oh, is it vegan?
It's
Is it a
really
vegan
good.
meal?
No,
No?
they're not that bad.
Oh,
They-
okay.
They have hors d'oeuvres. They're pretty good. And
I
a
can
and a
ask
Like
Yeah.
bacon and
and a cash
scallops or-
bar.
Oh, that's good.
I didn't sponsor that. I'd be broke.
All right.
Oh, that's right, February 4th, we're having the
Yeah,
meeting
we've got
I
a
was-
meeting
with,
Kim Roth,
Yeah,
the DEP.
I'm gonna try to make it for that.
So, hopefully the 4 of us, Brandon, you still have that date?
and that was at 10 o'clock,
good.
right?
February 4th at
Yeah,
10 a.m.
yeah, I think I
'cause
already
know
put
you
that
said
on my
you wrote it
calendar.
down.
Mhm.
February 4,
We'll
February
see.
4.
It's for the online permitting.
Yeah, Sutton Concom meeting, 10 a.m.
Well, that's a whole new thing of
It's
the way they
not,
wanna.
it's
It's
not
not
new, they
new.
developed it before, but they, as they explained it, they
No one does
developed
it.
they hired this company to do it, which
Yeah,
was
but
kind of at the beginning of the stuff, and then they can't update it.
They can't change it to fit. This
So
is why
some
the
people
engineers
use
don't
it.
wanna use it. They
Yeah.
can't put their words in it how
So
want.
they expect they will be making changes to that to make it easier to use, which, when you log on to it, if the permit information has been sent to the DEP, they'll all come up on those forms as already filled in.
Yeah, that would be great, because some of that stuff I can't fill it in. But it would be good if we could just open it up and say, oh, okay, and then when we permit it, I can finish it. And then we can add Brandon's special conditions to it, cause that's what we were doing before.
Gotta get some better HVAC in this building or something. So we get, the next up is departmental sign-off, planning board, Ledge Street, updated information. Mike did all the legwork on this.
I talked to Jen and, was a little confusing on the plan. All they wanna do is build that little private way that is basically there. It's
Here it
for
is right
frontage
here.
for that house
Here's-
lot.
I drew out what Jen told me today.
There's no construction going on anywhere in the back. It's not to create house lots. If it did, it would go to planning, so. And we looked on the maps. I don't think it was any of our jurisdiction.
So
So it's
it's
just a little
Just
extension.
that little
Yep.
access road.
Yep.
Right, I mean, just to double check with Brandon. So just between the two houses, that access road is all they want.
So basically making the paper road a
Yeah.
It creates the frontage for that undeveloped lot. So it's a private way, but that's the frontage for it. It's how it,
We can give them the all clear on that, cause there's no wetlands near that.
Yeah, right, it's right
Yeah,
down
just
there.
that, correct.
Just that.
Yeah, there's
No construction
I
beyond
haven't
that.
been there, but there is no indication that there's a wetland there. From any aerial photography, interpretation, or GS data layers, there's no sign of any wetland near that.
Okay.
Excellent.
Do we have something from Jen that needs to be signed off, or is a verbal okay? on that?
No,
Okay.
yeah, I think it's okay.
Okay. We have unexpected business tonight. 55 Lackey Dam Road, which is a 2002 filing, is looking for a COC, which is excellent. They might get a nice big fat check back, right?
Let me see what I did. Right here. Okay, what this is, the lawyer contacted me and asked for a certificate of compliance. So what's happened here is, this is a 2002 filing.
Oh.
And I thought I would ask,
Oh, my time.
there's no way we can get a letter from the engineer because it was Cox Engineering and he disappeared. And I think he went to Florida.
What,
So
good for him. What,
the.
how big of
I
a
know.
project was it?
It was just a septic.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
That's, yeah.
So what do we do with this?
We sign it.
That's what I told I would
Does
ask.
anybody have any
If you could sign it, cause I
Reason
mean,
not to sign it?
it was done in 2002.
Yeah. I think it's good.
Yeah, it's one of those long ones. I mean, it's one that I didn't catch before because it wasn't on my list.
Hold on, I think we have to
I haven't gone back that far yet.
officially sign it. Right,
What's that?
to make a motion.
It makes sense to do the recent ones.
Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 55 Lackey Dam Road, and to note that it dates back to 2002.
Second,
All those in favor?
Now you can sign it. I got a little.
sign that.
Are there still a lot of old ones out there, Wanda?
Oh, yeah, about 300. That list is quite lengthy. I mean, I can only do so many, you know, it's only.
Can we just make a generic, maybe I'll help you one
And
day.
amnesty month.
It's all in
yeah.
my track sheets.
Yeah, Wanda's been
I
keeping
have
track
track
of these
sheets
for
that
years.
date back to 1996.
Why don't we make a generic letter? I know you guys had a nice letter before, but why don't we make a generic letter
I
that's,
have one.
then we'll, I'll come in and fill some of them out and send them out. Do they need to be sent certified? Or just
No.
regular mail?
No, they're sent, the thing is, I have to get the address, I have to go downstairs, find out if there's a new owner, get the new owner's address, put the new owner's address on the letter.
You could get it
and
right from your
envelope.
computer,
You can do it
right
on
off the
your-
town's website.
No, you can't. No, because as of January 1st, things won't get changed until next January. So I have to go downstairs and make sure the address is correct, because I've gotten several of them back.
I think you could just
So
do
I have to get the
the
addresses.
name or current resident. I don't think,
Because their certificate of compliance
It's-
doesn't have to be for the current owner, right? I mean,
I would,
Yeah.
I wouldn't, you're wasting steps there. I would just put whoever the property owner's or the applicant's name was or current resident, write the address and send it. And then if we send it twice, I think we should do an enforcement order to get them buttoned up.
Well, a lot of them coming back because there's new owners.
Well, that's
I
why
could put
if you
or
put
current,
a current owner, that's a good idea.
Do
Yeah.
that, you know.
well, that's, so
Just let me know. I'll come, I mean, my handwriting's not the best, but I'll come in and fill out
well, here's a
envelopes.
crazy
Has to be
question.
typed out.
There's 300 of them.
Says who?
That's
So it's legible, Andy.
Yeah, so it's legible and official.
And it's, plus it's,
Is there any way to do a mail merge and then just do 300 letters or do 100 letters at once?
Can't put it-
A generic letter that says you have a certificate of compliance open, you fill at the top, you know, DEP number, whatever it was, to John Smith or a current resident with the address, and then we send them.
have that, but that still takes time.
I know, but
Ron-
You gotta go into
a
the computer
generic.
and do it.
Wanda, if you send me it, I can do it in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Well, it's
I've
a mail
got the
merge.
letter.
I
I've
just
got
need the letter and the data, and I can do it quick.
Oh, I can't get you the data, cause it's downstairs on the computer.
Yeah,
But
on
can you
the
give
big
me,
computer.
can you give me the information of the ones that are outstanding?
Yeah, just the addresses, right?
Not
What?
until I go into the list that I have, it's all on my track sheets.
Oh, you gotta
There's
pull
no
them manually.
addresses. I gotta go each
It's all paper
individual
copy?
file.
It's all paper copy?
Mm-hmm. It's all paper copy, it's on the track sheets, but it's all in
Hit,
the
like,
file.
typed in, yeah, it's not.
You gotta, the letter is listed so that the address goes at the top. Then I change the top part of it, the name and the address, and then underneath it is where you put the DEP number, the address of the property, if the address is changed, like some of them are camps, some people live in Florida during the winter.
Yeah, I understand that, if it's a
that kind of
camp, if it's seasonal, it might, and it changed hands, that
Yeah.
might be tough, but
Yeah,
camps are becoming few and far between,
I know they
you know?
so,
Maybe,
I've been trying to do
It sounds
them,
like a
but-
two-person job where maybe she pulls the file and then somebody goes on an Excel sheet and types in the information so that the mail merge could be done with the generic letter.
And then they're all in the Excel, you add to the Excel as we get new ones,
You know
right?
what might work? And I just got it for notification of the, the sewer, bringing the sewer up to the center. Can you put it in people's tax bill or a census? You can't mix it in with that? Like,
Because
by
they
the
don't
way,
come
you have
out
a
of
lien on
this
your house?
building. The tax bills don't come from here.
Oh, that's right, they come
So,
from Reading or
They're
something.
going from a
I think the
The
different-
problem is, most of these don't have tax, they're not recorded on
Yeah.
the deed, cause
They're
before
not.
Brandon, nobody did it.
Right.
Nobody recorded it on, you filed, you did your
So I
conservation
think
thing,
the
you did
Excel
your work.
spreadsheet's the way to do it,
Yeah.
so that we
And
can
then
delete them.
people just assume that has an expiration date and they did it all right. That's why you
Yes,
have,
they do.
and that's why you have 300 of them.
What else has
It's the
happened
truth, I mean,
too,
it's that simple.
Well,
especially
that-
We
people with
educate people
septic.
more now, it gets recorded on the deed, which
Okay,
catches
so
people.
I think that a big thing is the waiving of the as-built fee, the as-built, because that adds like another $1,500.
Easy.
Easy,
Yeah,
so
that's-
people just ignore
Mhm.
having to do that, and then they.
You can't get anybody. These engineers don't
Yeah, I
even
know.
call you back to do it. Like, even if you have the money and you can do it, good luck getting an engineer.
Here's
They didn't do the work and you
Didn't we
just
have-
want an as-built plan?
Didn't we have the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts looking to do extracurricular
they
work?
they can't do
Yeah,
that.
they can't do
They
that.
can't do
They
that.
can't use a
No,
computer?
they can't do that.
What, just out of curiosity, is there a need to close these, like, so what harm does it do us? So you have a file, it's like the dead file.
Yeah, it doesn't,
I don't
we
mean it
have
in
the
a, but
problem.
why are we really spending so much time worrying
The big-
about it?
Because,
cleaning up the books.
because it's,
Well, but
and
It's the lien on the property.
it's such an
it's a
300
it's a
people.
violation, and a lot of these people don't know they have
The
violations.
big thing for me is, this is the big thing for me, I would like to see that number down to 0 because we have an account in it with
Yeah.
money,
Yes.
a lot of
and
money that should be returned to the owner.
You've been signing these ones that I'm,
And I
we're
would,
doing
I don't
now.
disagree, but how do you
Return.
catch up with 300 of them?
I think
That's a
it's-
major
I do
undertaking.
what-
I think
Nicole
if
was
we just
saying,
start
is
sending
it
letters.
computerized, you do a generic letter, you handwrite the.
I agree
And
with you, it should be the
it's not
responsibility
a
of the property owner, the
one-person
attorney.
job.
No,
If
no,
it
I,
has to
I'm
be-
not
not
in
a
favor of
6-month
it, I'd
job
love to
either.
see books cleaned up, I
Yeah,
just
it's
think
a
it's a
two-person
pretty,
job, 'cause
pretty
somebody-
hefty
if they're
task.
Someone
paper
reads it out, one
copies,
person
right.
types.
So one of
I-
us needs to volunteer our time, which if I can find a day I can take off,
Well, that's
Wanda will
why I
come
didn't
in
know
and-
if it could be done by the schools as a form of a give back.
No, they wouldn't,
No, you can't
it's
do
too
it.
complicated.
Yeah, too much.
Most people are gonna look at the
They
letter,
only have one computer, so
they're gonna say, I'm not
there's no
spending any
way
money
they
on
can-
this, I don't care about it, it doesn't
Yeah,
affect me.
right.
But
And they're
you-
gonna
Wanda,
throw
you're
it
missing
in
my
the
I'll
point.
just have to come in on a
No,
Saturday.
no,
No,
you've
we're
been-
not
Wanda,
asking,
Way I'm gonna
Wanda,
we're not
no,
asking
hold
you
on,
to do
time out,
that.
you're missing my point. A high school kid that's looking for an internship, or something to give back community service, and I'm sure there's a list of them at the school, could come in here with his or her laptop or our conservation computer, and Wanda says, 1 Main Street, John Smith, blah, 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 and they do an Excel
I still have
spreadsheet.
to pull the file.
But you would pull it and just
You would pull it,
dictate
and the kid would type it up.
so all you're doing is pulling the
The
file
only amount of time it would be is pulling the file, probably 2 minutes
and
a file.
reading, yeah. So it's not
You
a
could get it
one-day
done in
job
2
either,
hours.
but.
Well, a lot of them are in the safe, so it's a little more than 2 minutes a file, but if you,
Well, no,
Well, I
the
guess if-
ones, no, I don't have any more of the certificates in the safe.
Okay.
I've gone through those boxes, so.
I guess the thing is, we like to clean it up. I don't like
I
sitting
know,
on a
I
board that
wanna
has
get
things
rid
that
of
are
them too.
20-something years old sitting out there with
I know.
300 of them, so why don't we work as a team?
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to
My
donate my time.
problem is I'm up here 4 days now. I'm downstairs on Fridays.
Yep.
I have tomorrow, for instance, if I've got anything coming in, I have to do I've got one that I've gotta do a legal ad on and get that out of my way. So after that, what I was gonna try to do is go through some of them I use a track sheet to go through to see what the next thing is. But, I'm working on like, I think 3 years from now, I think it's 2016, that I've been working with. I've sent out letters. I've sent out maybe 10 or 12.
Oh, and we got a good
I-
return on them, that's why I'm
Wanda.
saying send out more.
None,
Wanda, are you
No,
the only
one.
one that would be
No, we
allowed to
had
pull
more
those
than that that we
files?
closed out, but-
yes.
Okay.
All right,
So
I'll
I'm
take a.
saying like me and Andy couldn't do it, for
Well,
instance.
you can, but I don't know how you're gonna find them. They're all alphabetical, but
So
Without
someone,
the track
so you need
sheet.
like 3 people here. One person pulls the track sheet
I
out.
think what she's saying is they're not in a file with the people that didn't, it's all one.
right,
Well,
it's,
what I'm saying
So
is
she
we
has to
have
literally
on a
go through
sheet.
every single file, go in the thing and say, oh, yep, this one's good, it's got a
no, I
certificate.
have it on the track sheet as to what's the what the names are, what the addresses.
So then you just have to pull a file?
Yeah,
I have to
what I'm
pull the
saying, I think
file,
we're
and
making
I
it
have to
worse than
find
it
out, you know.
is.
I think it.
And Mr.
It's a
Chairman,
process,
Yes.
it's not
Yes,
it's not
Brandon.
like
Yes,
just
sir.
typing
on this
names
general
on.
subject, about 5 years ago, the commission voted to add a special condition to every order, special order conditions, which is usually around condition number 30 related to certificate of compliance, which reads, on or about the yearly anniversary of the issuance of this order, the representative of the Conservation Commission shall perform a site inspection to assess compliance with the order until such a time that a certificate of compliance is issued.
Which we've never done.
We have not been able to do that as well as we wanted to because, like you said, there's like 300. And like,
There's so
after a
many
while,
of
it
them.
becomes a full-time job.
Right.
And
I
I
would-
just haven't been able to keep up with it.
I would probably pull that language out of there if we're not gonna be able to do it.
Something to think about.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of these, the older than like 2012, or even really before like 2007, 8 when I came on board, there's no money because there was no review by a consultant, so there's if I was to go out there, you'd have to pay me out of your Wellness Protection Act account, which you probably don't wanna have to do, and I don't blame you. And although there is money to do these, the part of the idea is that you would, the owner of the property would be throwing good money after bad because they just haven't gotten to doing something, like, well, now you have to pay Brandon more money to do this, and that's kinda gives you a little kick to get it done. But it really hasn't been, people still haven't really been doing them. The thing that has been helping more than anything else, I think, is the requirement that you don't have to do the as-built, but as we've been seeing some of the problem with that is that we're having problems with the engineers and the substantial conformance, and that we don't get a plan, so it's not as clear, so things might miss things.
And that's the thing is, you're having people that don't know, like Mr. Connors, have no idea that what a certificate of compliance or an order of conditions is if they just bought the house. You know, they bought the
Yeah,
house.
and they're not
they-
even told about
And
it.
I think the problem lies in the engineers, you know, need to take a little bit more responsibility, or maybe we need to, I
They're
mean,
not
we're never
finishing
gonna
the
get
job,
every
yeah.
lawyer that's doing real estate closings to say, hey, can you make sure? No, you're not gonna get that, but at least the engineers that come before us, that are the ones writing these letters, some of them are probably really good, and some of
When
them
I,
probably
when I send out the order
are busy.
conditions, I send out that permit primer with the request for certificate attached, with a note that says, when your project has been completed, you must file this with us. So I've been sending those out now for 2 years.
So let's talk about moving forward.
So,
This board does everything they can to make sure people close out their certificate of compliance. The biggest thing that we have, pre-construction meetings, you have to give proof of registry at the registry of deeds.
Yeah.
That's the thing, if we wanna talk about enforcement, we should make sure that there isn't a project that comes in front of this board that doesn't follow those two policies.
Yeah.
Pre-construction meeting and certificate of compliance recorded against the deed. Most banks today, and most lawyers, bring that up at closing. Most banks, if it's been there for a while, want an explanation why, or it removed from the title.
I have an
Talk about
idea.
300 to go back, how many ever years they are, and I'm not in favor for getting rid of them. I just think that's a humongous undertaking. Way more than sending some letters. Just being a builder, I know how people's thought process are. If you don't make them, and they didn't do it, and it wasn't their doings of that order of conditions, they're not gonna get rid of it.
The other problem is,
Just know moving forward, I think this board, with the processes that are in place, does a great job. And I bet if you look, most of what goes through this board today, people are getting certificate of compliance for them. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't.
what the problem is back, not so much now, but back further, is when they, septic systems, they have to get their certificate through the Board of Health or they can't move in. They think they're done.
Yeah.
They don't come to
Right, that's what I said, most people don't even
so
understand they need to do
don't
anymore.
know.
They think it
Fishes have been
expires.
Involved.
Most people
Yeah.
rely very
They've been
heavily on
there
the people that are helping
a
them
month
buy their
before their
house. So
Right.
like,
certificate.
most people don't know what they're
Right.
supposed to be doing.
Correct.
A lot of them haven't been told they have a.
I mean,
There's my point,
We
nobody
used
enforces
to
it, we had a whole
always
bunch we can talk, that's
tell
what I'm
people, but
telling you,
not
there's so much,
Could we
all these
list
rules, all
on
these things,
the
and nothing gets
TV, the
enforced.
names of people who,
I tried that, Mark wouldn't let me do it.
Well,
well,
Mark's not the
saying,
board here.
could we make a list of the 300 people, put it on the TV, and say, if you're on this list, please contact conservation? Why not do that first?
I
I,
had that list.
I would,
That might be-
people,
yeah,
that's
that
kinda
might
like
be-
publicly shaming
Public
somebody.
shaming.
I would probably be more apt to send a letter first, and then if they don't
Yeah.
comply, it's like getting your name published
Well,
in the paper because you're behind the
It's
taxes.
not gonna be easy to send a letter until everything's put into an Excel spreadsheet, cause if you're doing it the way you're doing it, it's gonna take forever to do just a few.
Well, I
So,
don't know how you do a letter from an Excel spreadsheet.
you do a mail merge.
I-
You put all the data
Well,
into the Excel
yeah.
spreadsheet, and then you do the data merge into your standard
so you would
letter.
be, you would
So you
send,
could have the
Why not
name-
send it to people that don't need it, that's the thing.
because you would
Because it
say,
would only make the Excel spreadsheet for the people that we're sending the letter to.
you would
So she
say,
can probably help.
It's already on track sheet.
no, you would say on a track sheet, Bill Wentz, Main Street, not complete. As you're saying it, one of us would type it in, then we get all 300 on an Excel spreadsheet, then we
Yeah.
push it over, it would print stickers, they go on a generic letter, everyone gets a letter.
I can
Watch
do
your head.
we can do a mail merge for the address labels and the letter, because you can put whatever you want in the letter. You can do the name, the address,
That's
the
the easy
DP
part.
number. It's putting the data into the sheet is the tedious part.
And it's not even that hard.
No, it's
300
just-
is not gonna take long.
No, it just depends on how you have to gather the information, that's all.
Finding the.
Well, I would be willing to
Yeah.
help if I, but I'm not very computer literate, so.
I'll have to ask Jen tomorrow about this merge
Or
thing.
maybe.
I hate to bring up a
She may
bad
have
subject,
it
but
on-
everything nowadays is computer,
She may have
everything.
it on her computer.
All
For
it is
now.
is a button.
For now.
Once
They're
you,
getting hacked
once you
real bad
create
the
the
last
Excel
couple weeks. Businesses,
spreadsheet,
forget
there's
it. Got
a
completely
button
shut
in
down.
Word that
I
says
They
mail
have
merge.
extort you.
300 Excel.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, they make you make payment,
Yeah, I
you
heard
want
that.
10,000, it just happened to Victor.
Do that.
Nothing he can do about
Gotta
it.
have side.
Okay.
So, Wanda, what's
No,
on
you
the
have to have
track
everything
sheet?
backed
What
up so
I-
that you can, they can
what do
wipe
you
you
have on the
out and
track
lock
sheet
you
right now?
out. What
Just
they do is
the
they lock you out,
open ones,
The name.
and they give
the
you a
name?
code unless you pay them.
I'll take a motion
Is
to
that
adjourn.
digital?
Yes.
I'll second
Second.
it.
All those in, oops,
Oh, we need a motion.
We need a motion.
Okay,
motion to
motion to
adjourn?
adjourn.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's it.